Okay, hello. Hi. Um, my name is Kalou. I live at the Mount. I've lived here for 14 years. I'm originally from Denmark, and um, I live here at the Mount with my husband and my son. Usually, when I'm not at home in my bubble, I work at the Toranga Art Gallery at front house, which is great. And I like to write and I like to make art. Three years ago, I wrote a book for my son just before he turned 11. Just before his 11th birthday, I finished it. So it's about 3 years ago. It was called The Wave, and it was written for Sebastian. He inspired me. I'd wanted to write a book for a while, and had written all this for another book, and then it didn't work. So I put it on a shelf and thought, okay, I'm going to write something completely different. And then this idea came along, and I wrote it, and it was fun. As an artist and a writer, the most important tools for me would be, there's a whole lot. If you imagine a toolbox, put tools in there and then take them out and look at them. So we've got ideas. Ideas are like super important. Where do ideas come from? They come from anywhere. So one of my most important tools, I can't show things, is my notebook. So I write in my notebook every day anything that comes to mind. At the moment I'm writing all sorts of stuff, but sometimes it's just little ideas that come to mind, or ideas for projects, ideas for a snippet of dialogue or whatever. So that's probably my most valuable tool, is my notebook. Then there's things like confidence, I guess, a little bit of belief in yourself. They sort of go hand in hand. Not caring too much what other people think. I've had that a lot lately, where this sort of, whenever you put your work out there, I do anyway, I feel very vulnerable. And so I have to try and remind myself that I believe in my work, and otherwise I wouldn't have done it. And that it doesn't really matter, the rest doesn't really matter. So, and anything positive that comes is just the bonus, it's lucky me. If people like my work, that makes me happy. If they don't, still good, like it's not the end of the world, because there's always going to be people who don't, and some of them like to tell you that, which is quite interesting. Don't know why, but that happens. What else? I don't know. Good pins. Good pins are good to have, and decent paper. I don't know, and just the ability to learn and know that you don't know everything, and the fact that nothing comes from nothing. You have to have something, because as long as you have something to work with. You can make it better, you can change it, you can do anything, but you can't do it if you don't do it, if that makes sense. So yeah, momentum would fit in with that, as well as just, I don't know if there's a word that encapsulates it, but basically throwing perfectionism out the window, because that will stop you in your tracks all the time. It's there's the phrase, done is better than perfect. So finishing things, that's important. So if that can go in the toolkit, that's good too. I guess freedom of movement. I like walking on big hills. I can't do that at the moment. Not having the option to fly home to see my family should the need arise, which luckily they're all well and healthy at the moment. But if I wanted to, I could not leave this country and go home. And they probably wouldn't let me in anyway once I got there. So that's one thing. So, and people, I do miss being around friends and, yeah, giving people a hug, be nice. And just, yeah, freedom of movement. So not being able to just jump in the car and drive to my favorite cafe or supermarket or whatever, because I can't go to the supermarket. I've got the immunocompromised thing happening, so Rob gets to go, my husband. So lucky him. The Basiloid project. So that's my latest project, which I've just kind of wrapped up. Not quite. It's not quite there yet, but so the idea for it started about this time last year. I had cancer in my bum, and I had an idea for a little drawing, and I drew it. I wrote the idea down, put it in the notebook, and kind of a few days later had this thought of maybe it could be a graphic novel or like a comic, and what if it was also an exhibition. And I sort of again the notebook, but that's kind of how I work through things in the notebook, and kind of like, how big could I make it, if it was totally crazy, how far could I take it, kind of thing. So that was and I could show you the page. It would take a little while to find it, but it's there, and it's basically outlining a graphic novel and an exhibition and some workshops. And then I thought, well, hold on, maybe I could ask for some funding for this. And so Creative New Zealand have funding rounds. So I got some funding, which was very kind of them, and allowed me to get my drawings framed nicely, so that they could go and hang at the incubator creative hub down in the historic village. And that's where it's hanging now. So the idea was to have the exhibition and launch the graphic novel on the 9th of April. And that kind of was on track until we went from level 2 COVID to level 3. And then suddenly there was like level 4 looming. And I talked to Simone from the incubator in the morning. She said, because we talked about hanging the show just so I could get some photos and things like that. And she said, if you're going to do it, it has to be today, because we're going into lockdown tonight. That was like Wednesday, whatever it was, 25th of March. And so I went, she let me in, we were like social distancing. And she left me there, showed me how to lock up behind myself. And then I spent some hours in there just hanging some framed works and some sculpture. And now it's there. And then we had the idea to have like a virtual exhibition opening. So we had a Zoom where people showed up. There was about close to 40 people, I think, all there, all together, raising a glass, and it was really nice. I'm reading this week. I've kind of lately had a few books on the go, which is good, but also not so good. So fiction, I read a very funny bit of intelligent fluff. It was called The Overdue Life of Amy Byler. If you want to read that, it's very funny. Set in New York, because I never made it to New York, so I've been watching movies and reading books set in New York. It's really good. But on the flip side of that, I've been reading what's it called? A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. So all about the ego and getting your head around that. Bad pun. The Magic of Thinking Big. That's on the to read list. There's I'm reading Bukowski on writing. It's kind of letters, him writing letters to his editors and friends and stuff back in the 50s and 60s, 70s. He's quite a funny guy. And what else? I don't know, I could make you a whole list. I've got lots of books on the go, but I can't think of them now. I'm trying to visualize my stack somewhere.